You've ever stopped to observe your own face while watching a game, not the game itself, your face. Something is happening there that goes far beyond football, a tension you didn't choose to feel, a hope that shows up without asking permission, and when the goal goes in, something releases inside you, something that was held. The question nobody asks is, what was that thing that was held? There's a simple theory about why we care so much about teams that play without knowing we exist. We're not rooting for them. We're rooting for a version of ourselves. The player who doesn't give up represents something you want to believe about yourself. The comeback in the second half speaks to something you still hope will happen in your own story. The missed penalty hurts you in a specific way because you've been there, not on a field, but in a decision, in a chance, in a moment where everything depended on you and it didn't go the way it should have. The field is a mirror, and most people never realize they're looking at themselves in it. Think about how many hours you've dedicated to football. I'm not saying this as a criticism, I'm saying it as an observation. Because there's something revealing in what we choose to give our time to. You follow tables, results, lineups, post-game interviews. You know the history of players who will never know your name, and there's nothing wrong with that. But there's a quiet question that this raises. What else in your life receives that level of attention? I'm not talking about productivity. I'm talking about presence. That state where you're completely inside something, where time passes differently. Do you find that in other places in your life? When the team loses, there's a specific kind of silence. It's not the silence of someone with nothing to say. It's the silence of someone with too much to say and no idea where to begin. I think that silence speaks to something very particular in each person, because two people can watch the same defeat and feel completely different things. One feels anger, another feels sadness, another feels relief, and doesn't even understand why. What you feel when you lose says more about you than about the game. Just as what you feel when something goes wrong in your life says more about what you carry inside you than about what happened out there. The World Cup comes and goes, but that weight, that stays. In the 19th century, a German philosopher named Arthur Schopenhauer spent decades trying to understand one thing. Why does the human being never seem satisfied? You achieve something, and shortly after you already want something else. You wait for the World Cup for 4 years. It arrives, it passes, and you're already waiting for the next one. For Schopenhauer, this wasn't weakness, it was the human condition. He said there is a force inside us that never rests, that always wants, that always pushes forward, and that most people spend their entire lives being carried by this force without ever realizing it exists. But he observed something rare, that there are moments where this force goes silent, where you want nothing beyond what is happening right now. He called these moments pure contemplation and said they were the only moments in which the human being truly rested from himself. How many times in your life have you forgotten yourself? Not through distraction, but by being so present in something that the self simply disappeared for a moment. Maybe you know exactly what I'm talking about. Or maybe you're realizing now that it's been a long time since that happened. The World Cup comes and goes, but you remain here, with the same questions that were there before it arrived, with the same silences, with the same things you still haven't resolved inside yourself. And that's okay. I'm not saying this to pressure you. I'm saying it because sometimes we need someone to acknowledge that there are questions that are in no hurry, that stay, that ripen. Football gave you a moment of total presence. The question that remains is simple, and you'll carry it for as long as you need to. What else in your life deserves that same presence